Hey guys, I am excited to talk to you about sun signs and ego. So, I get asked a lot when it comes to the topic of astrology about why there's so much focus on sun signs and not so much the other signs. And I love this question because it's actually a really easy answer, but it's really important for you to understand how this applies to understanding your sun sign. So, the reason that we all identify with our sun sign and that everyone's so like, if somebody says to you, like, oh, what are you? You say Taurus. That's what my sun sign is. Like, you identify yourself with that, is because sun signs represent your ego. All right. And we live in a culture and society, right? Hey, Elizabeth, that is all about the ego. So your moon sign, which we're going to talk more about next week, your moon sign represents your intuition and your sun sign represents your ego. And so it's not as if you should ignore it. It's actually really important information, and it's actually awesome to check in with weekly, daily, monthly, like what's going on with your sign in particular and the influence of the current planets in your sign. But it's also important to understand that that information is just pertaining to your ego. So what does that mean? Your ego really dictates your behavior when it comes to how you interact with other people. And I'm going to explain this a little bit more, but I think it's important for you to understand that your ego is something that's always fluctuating and always changing. And your intuition is a very steady thing. Your intuition doesn't really change. It evolves. It becomes stronger. You become more aware of it. You can work on it. You can build it up. But you're not really changing in the way that your intuition works. The strengths that you have intuitively are the strengths that you're born with, and it's what you do with those and how you learn about them and strengthen them that really has an impact. But when it comes to ego is not a constant. Ego is constantly changing based on what's going on in your life and what you're afraid of. We have this sort of idea that, and it's so backwards and confusing, but so ego. Oh my gosh, right? We have this idea that just because you behaved a certain way 10 years ago, that you have to behave that way forever. Like when people identify and say, oh, I'm very organized. That's a very weird thing because you don't always, it kind of depends, right? You might be like super organized for like 10 years of your life and then all of a sudden not be. Doesn't mean you're automatically going to be. That's behavior. But what you're really pulling, hey Janice, what you're really pulling from, what you're really talking about is based on the evidence I have from my past behavior, this is usually how I choose to operate in the present. That's what you're really saying. Sounds really complicated and weird, right? But that's how your ego thinks. And your ego likes to think that it is a constant, but it isn't. It's always changing. So sometimes people will read their sun sign and they won't feel super connected to it. And that's, I don't want to say it's common, but let's just say it's not rare. So there's a couple of things that I want you to look at when it comes to your sun sign and understanding it, especially if you're not feeling connected to it. First and foremost, check to see if you were born on a cusp. So what that means is, were you close to the changeover of a sign? All right, so sun signs stay, moon signs change constantly, right? But sun signs stay in there for a bit, right? We're in there for about a little more than a month. So the sun's traveling through these different signs, it's there, but maybe you were born close to the switchover. Maybe you're not sure the time of your birth and you see in that day the sun change signs, or a few days before or a few days after. Read those other signs, or the one other sign that it could be, and see if you connect more with that. See if maybe you're more of a combination of the sign you were born under and the one before, or the one right after, depending where you are. Look at that cusp sign and see what you can gather from that. If you were born on a day where the sun moved signs, like within 12 hours of your birth, then there's a chance that some of those other traits energetically are really connected to you. So really look at that. If you were born like smack dab in the middle of a sun sign, probably the cusp isn't the issue, but if you were on either end, if you were close, you're going to want to look at the other sun sign too to see its influence. Chances are there's a combination of energies playing a part, so you're not fully really connected to one of them. The other thing that goes on that is actually very common is ego kind of denial of itself. And I actually went through this the very first time I read my sun sign description. I'm a Taurus, which you're probably laughing now, because if you know anything about astrology, you'd probably think I was the poster child for a Taurus. I very much have those traits. But back 100 years ago, or however old I am, back probably 30 years ago or 25 years ago when I first read that, I did not identify with those traits. It was all about being very stubborn, being very much into creature comforts and consistency, being very connected to the earth. And that did not sound like me to me at that time. And that's because I wasn't very connected to who I really was. I was much more connected to how I wanted other people to view me. Like, I want you to see me as this. And those traits weren't connected to that. So I had trouble relating to that. But as I sort of unpacked it and became more myself as I got older, now I completely see how very Taurus-y I am, but really only in ego traits. There's a lot of traits of a Taurus that I don't feel like really apply to me because they're sort of more in the realm of intuition for me. Also, you have to remember that once you do your natal chart, once you see all the other influences and how they play a part, you realize that your sun sign is really just a small factor in understanding like yourself from an astrological point of view, right? So once you have more of that picture, sometimes seeing just your sun sign alone and sort of in that like confined spot that it is makes more sense when it's like a big picture. Oh, it's in this way in ego. So like I said, I would explain a little bit more of ego is all about how you connect with other people and how you're seen with other people, and also how you feel safe in the world. Okay, so first and foremost, let's look at how you connect with other people. Your sun sign is going to give you a lot of valuable information about this. And it's not going to necessarily be written in there like this is how you connect with other people for your sun sign. But when you read the traits, when it comes to that, you're going to really get an understanding of how you approach situations with other people, what you bring to them, energetically, what's going on, like kind of right away, and behaviorally, is that a word? When it comes to connecting with others. So if you can sort of read it and sort of think of that influence and how you're connecting with other people and how you sort of feel seen and witnessed and how you sort of want to come off to people, you're going to sort of understand that. Now, one of the things that I think everybody thinks of when they think of a Taurus is stubborn, right? We're the bull, we're stubborn, we plow through everything, we go 100 miles an hour or 0. And it's really funny because stubborn is a trait that I actually don't mind showing people. I'm actually kind of proud of the fact that I'm stubborn all the time, which is kind of weird. That's not necessarily like a great trait to brag about, but I'm definitely very comfortable with people seeing me be stubborn. I don't feel bad about that. And that's because that's very much an ego trait of mine that gets pushed forward, and the Taurus represents that. The creature comforts, the consistency, I'm very comfortable showing people those sides of me. What I'm not comfortable showing people is vulnerability. And if you read through the Taurus, their sun sign, the natal chart sort of just Taurus, you're going to see that you're not going to see the word vulnerability. You're going to see a lot of like standing firm and getting what you want and going for things. And that tends to be what I lead with my personality to show. I'm an incredibly sensitive person. If you look at me funny, I will feel like my feelings got hurt. I am that way, but I don't show that very often. I don't lead with that. It's not that I'm hiding it necessarily. I did for a long time. It's not necessarily that I'm hiding it now. It's just not naturally what I'm gonna lead with to connect with people. I'll more lead with sort of a leadership and a go for it kind of vibe than I will with a vulnerable vibe. But you'll see other people and other signs will lead with vulnerability. They'll immediately start talking about something difficult that happened to them. and how they were vulnerable and use it to connect with other people because that feels more comfortable to them. So you'll see that too. So read through your sun sign is sort of like the stuff you sort of feel naturally comfortable showing people about yourself. Also read through it as the stuff that sometimes you feel like can be too overpowering to people as well. All right, so you're going to want to look at that aspect. And then the last part of this that I want you to understand about your sun sign is that it can give you a lot of information with how you deal with fear, and it can also give you a lot of information of where you don't feel intuitively tough. And I want to explain what that means. So your sun sign, when you read it, when you read your horoscope, right, you're going to see immediately some shadow stuff that always talks about that. And it seems funny, like sun sign shadow, but you got to think of the sun as casting a shadow. All right. So if you think of it that way, so you're going to see shadowy stuff because your ego's job is to help bring fear to the surface for you to deal with. Right. So your ego's bringing up all this fear. So the way you handle fear is really going to be described in your sun sign. So for example, Taurus, a big thing for Taurus is that we like consistency and comfort and routine. We like these certain things that make us comfortable in routine, consistent for us. Now we like spontaneity, but not really so much in this area. So this is also how I respond to fear. All right, I will overly control those issues and those things in my life and overly focus on them when I'm feeling afraid. So for example, if like I took my kids to Great Wolf Lodge last weekend. Talk about a lot of energy. Holy guacamole, there's way too many human beings there for me. Oh. But anyways, when we were planning that trip, I overly worried, like I always do anytime I go on vacation, about food, about making sure we had enough food, making sure the kids would be all set, making sure I would be all set, when will we eat, at what time? And even when I was there, I was thinking about like, are the kids going to be hungry? Am I hungry? And this was sort of going on in my head. And it's not that, I mean, I do love my food, but it's not so much that, it's that there's a bit of fear about controlling that factor in whatever I'm doing. So I'll overly plan that. My husband was making fun of me because I wanted to pack a toaster to bring. We went for 3 days, 2 nights. Like, calm down, right? But if I look at this in the reverse and I say, well, this must be where I don't feel really intuitively comfortable and powerful and strong, let me look and I can see, I do see food as a real vulnerable thing for myself. And when I feel vulnerable, sometimes it's hard to feel powerful. And when I feel powerful, that's when my intuition works the best. So for example, I have a lot of food intolerances and so do the people in my family. And so fearing that I'll be in a position where I can't provide for them or I can't do the best thing, give them the best experience, really comes from a place of not feeling intuitively strong about that. And a lot of part of intuition is not just knowing, the future or what's going to happen, but being in a present moment and being adaptable and dealing. And I don't feel super adaptable there. I don't feel like, whatever, throw me into a situation and I'll do just fine with food, because it's really difficult for me on the fly to find things that I can eat. And I am one of those people, you guys, I cannot go like 4 hours without food. I will become a hangry mess with low blood sugar, like laying on the ground. Like I just can't. The way I operate, I always need to be, I'm always operating 100 miles an hour. I need to be feeding that. I need to be fueling myself, or else I become a hot mess. Good grief, right? So if I know that about myself, it's a part that I feel fearful around when it comes to adaptability. A big part of intuition is feeling confident that in any situation that you're thrown at, because there's so much you can't control, that you can roll with it, right? That's the opposite of fear. Like, I can just handle that. And that area, I don't feel it. And so that's where I constantly plan. And if you read the horoscope of a Taurus, you're going to see that there are things that we have to put in place routinely for creature comforts that make us feel better. All right. So that sort of can give you, if you look at it that way, a lot of information about yourself that I think is more helpful than just oh, it looks like I'm going to be lazy this week or whatever your horoscope says. Look at it from that perspective and you're going to get a lot more valuable information. There's nothing wrong with identifying with your sign, and it's okay if you really don't. Get your whole natal chart done and see if you, the link is right in the course, but see if you really identify with more of that stuff. All right. And if you see, okay, this one piece I don't connect with as much, just sort of roll with it. There might be a part of it that you're taking too literal or like overly focused on, and that's okay. Like just open up and see what it means to you. All right. Hey, Nicole, she said, I never thought of confidence as intuition based. Thanks for that point of view. You're welcome. Yeah. So feeling like, you know, whatever comes at me, I can handle is an intuition thing, because intuition only happens in the present, right? You can't really use your intuition and say like, all right, well, in 5 years when this event happens, I'm gonna intuitively know what to do in it because I'm gonna download that info right now. If someone's doing that, they're BS cockadoodieing you. That's not real, right? Yes, you can get information about future events, but not how will I operate in this moment. That's something you have to be able to do. Intuition is very much based on presence. And so feeling confident in any situation, if you feel like you can roll and adjust and adapt to whatever's coming to you, that makes you feel really confident, and that's an intuitive quality, right? Intuitive people have that ability to know, like, whatever I'm faced with, energetically or otherwise, I'm going to handle. I have the ability to handle that. I trust intuitively I'll know what to do. And so that's where that comes from. So yes, thank you for helping me make that point. All right, so look at those things and look at your sun sign and look at it when you really connect to it with your ego, very specifically in the form of how you connect with other people, what you like to show and what you sort of hold back and hide, and also fearful, like what are your reactions to fear? Where might you not be feeling super strong and tough, and where intuitively might you not feel super strong, especially when it comes to adaptability and confidence, all right? Especially when you don't know what's coming. Your ego always wants to predict the shit that's coming. Your intuition just wants to make sure you have the resources to deal with whatever shit is coming. So I think that difference is important to look at. So understand and look at that. Do a little journaling on it and really see what comes across. And make sure you get your natal chart done if you haven't already. Monday, it's a full moon. So just a reminder, make sure you get ready to do your full moon assignment, and hopefully you can do it Monday night, if not the night before, Sunday night or Tuesday night, or okay, but you're gonna get the best effects and feel most of the energy more if you do it on the day of or night of the full moon, which is Monday the 21st, I believe. So keep an eye out for that as well, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye, guys.